We're not going to die immediately.
You're shitting me, right?
What the fuck is going on here? You know something.
Everybody wants to be an astronaut. Take the long tall train to the sun.
Hello everyone and welcome. I'm the Black Shadow, and there's just 2 days for the start of the Golden Path Internationals for Dune Imperium. 160 players have entered for what is surely the largest Dune Imperium tournament there's ever been, with a live draw being done here on Hidden Assets, December the 1st at 7pm GMT, it's also 2pm Eastern. But for today, please be joined by Ivan, also known as Unfussable, who's a member of our TTS community and has helped get the GPI off the ground by sponsoring the competition, which has led to our $1,000 prize pool. We're going to be talking about that, the many years as a professional game master, and also a special offer for you guys with Unfussable Narrative being promoted during the course of the tournament. With that, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Nice to be here. Yeah, the sponsorship. Don't even mention it. I mean, that is a no-brainer for me. I love the game, and yeah, I'm Ivan or Unfussable, as I said. 31. I tell in very short terms. I tell dark and gripping stories in tabletop role-playing games.
Well, let's touch about Dune Imperium before anything else. So, how did you even come across the game? Because it's something I would love asking people about how they've come across it. Like I came across it, I just got introduced by another friend. Some people I know have seen like in a store, thought it was cool. Have got backgrounds in board games. What about yourself?
So let's go back a little bit because I noticed this entire controversy as somebody who was LGBTQ plus themselves and involved in this scene. I saw the controversy around people being upset that the original material, let's say, has a couple of hiccups here and there, especially in terms of depiction of the Fremen and so on and so forth. So having black characters on the show was stirring up some controversy, and I was just really enjoying it because that doesn't change anything. Either it's a good product or not. Then it just fell off the map, and I never followed what actually happened after that was announced. So I haven't seen the movie or anything. I did see the original back with my mom, and then yeah, just at some point, I think that the game came out not too long after the movie, and I moved, married my wife, and moved together to a new place and found a local gaming group, and they were like, "Let's have a Dune Imperium tournament at the end of the month." I'm like, "What is Dune Imperium?" They're like, "How do you not know what Dune Imperium is?" And yeah, that was pretty much the beginning of it. So I played a game, played another game, and then I bought it, and I bought the expansion as well immediately. Yeah, we had a tournament, and I lost every single game, so that took the wind out of my sails a little bit. And after, I would say, 1.5 months, about, I felt that itch again creeping up. That was end of August or beginning of September, and yeah, played over 100 games since. 23% win rate, just below average score of 8.62. So
That's not too bad.
that's it. Yeah,
It's not too shabby. I think a lot of people
it's
would be happy
okay.
with that. Seems totally fine. Have you read much of like the novels or anything like that? Admittedly, I haven't. So,
I have it here, but I have not read it. No,
all right, it's on the to-do list.
absolutely, yeah. And I've also seen the movie like a month ago, roughly. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I've got to do. I've got to watch at least one of them, even if it's one from I think it was '87 or something. I saw a little bit of it the other day
Something like
actually,
that.
and it's like you see like the costumes, and that it's just like it's very of that time period.
Yes.
But they did a really good job of it. To be fair, so that's cool.
Yeah.
So, what is Unfussable Narrative? This is obviously the project that you've been underway with and you've run for, I assume, several years. What is it, and why did you begin it?
So, well, first of all, of course, tabletop role playing games, for those that don't know, is that not like stuff like Dungeons and Dragons? Yes, it is. But I provide the antithesis basically to fantasy hero stories. I'm gravitating heavily towards horror and frighteningly realistic and gritty scenarios instead. This started because I worked in a TTRPG company as a community manager. Technically, I was doing everything marketing wise and media creation, etc. Because it was just a two-person company. And yeah, at some point I had to pick up all kinds of systems and look at what's out there just to get a grasp of um, what I'm actually talking about. At that point, I had already played TTRPGs for 6 years, I believe. I'm now at 9. And before that, I also came from a hardcore role playing background in MMORPGs, purely text based. So like World of Warcraft, for example, started that when I was 13. And Unfussable Narratives eventually, when I shifted out of that company, felt like it was an endeavor that I was willing to try because um, there was not a lot out there that was similar at the time. And now Unfussable Narrative is unlike the hundreds of fantastic options out there where you can be a hero and slay dragons. It is more of the destination where you go to experience cinematic, gut-wrenching stories in which you realistically just rarely win. And that, yeah, darkness is also then explored in a safe and inclusive environment. That's also something I put a lot of emphasis on.
So it seemed just like kind of a natural move for you, you know, to go from that and then start your own project and, you know, kind of chart out your own course of what you want to do with this sort of thing, rather than kind of sticking to sort of the more usual norms, I guess, of the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also did not find anything where you didn't have to be committed for a very long time, but where also you could expect the highest quality of production, where you really, take something away from it. So usually, let's say one shots where instead of playing an entire campaign, you just play for one single evening, however long that may go. A lot of them are just, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but let's say they're relatively forgettable to me at least, because they didn't give you something to think about. They just left you with nothing. It was just an experience where you got to beat a monster or whatever it is, or reveal some investigation. For example, I think Call of Cthulhu is a system that does it pretty well, where you do sometimes get that sense of dread and something to think about at the end of it. But yeah, because that was very rare, and even rarer or almost not there at all was short campaigns that just take 3 to 6 maybe sessions. So because you know that there is an end, you can tell a cinematic and memorable experience, where every character is unique and they bring some morally gut wrenching uh, story to the table or participate in that. And that's just what I was looking for, and it wasn't there. So
Yeah, and my knowledge, I definitely know there's especially when people sort of get together in their own personal groups. Obviously, there's some that are kind of very quick, and there's some people I know that have been playing like for like a campaign. It's gone on for like a year, and it's absolutely staggering to me that you know it's incredibly impressive that people are willing to put in that amount of time and effort into this sort of creation that they've come up with amongst people they know. But obviously, that's only so feasible for so many people. Obviously.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think a year is the bottom end. Like if it works out, it usually goes for several years.
That is
And
it's insane
yeah.
to me.
which is so much fun as well, like playing in a sandbox, right, where you can just do whatever you want and experience whatever you want to experience and go there or go here. That has its appeal in its own right, and I just focus on having a more, well, I think the entire design is just claustrophobic. Everything is made to enhance atmosphere and tension and keep things concise.
So something I want to dig into, which fascinates. I was reading the profile on Start Playing, which I think ties into the kind of the vibe you tend to go for here. Is that your style? It specifically says here, I generally do not play or run hero stories with happy ends, but morally ambiguous, challenging, and emotionally involved characters and games. So you've obviously got this preference for this as opposed to the good versus evil, your dragon slaying, that sort of thing. But why is that? What appeals you so much to sort of a more kind of grey area of storytelling?
It's not real life. I think that's the simplest answer. When you're trying to tell a story where things are at stake, approachability and realism become key players because the person who engages with the story needs to be able to feel into it. So the more otherworldly or not necessarily otherworldly, you can tell otherworldly stories without them being unrealistic. If you catch my drift. Um, but yeah, the easier they have access to the characters, the easier they can understand something that is happening or a status quo that is inside that universe or that world. The quicker you can and the more effective I feel like you can really hook into them and pull them in emotionally as well. And yeah, I engaged with a lot of philosophical topics outside of this black and white frame a lot. Also inside, so whether that is religion that usually defines good and evil, for example, um, or yeah, something a little more nuanced. I've seen that, and I feel like everything is a gray area. There is no black and white in real life.
I mean, I can attest to that. I mean, I'll say as well for like a couple of things that I had been sort of mediums I was consuming over the course of the summer, in amongst the previous Dune Imperium Tony, for example. And these grey areas where things aren't like all hunky dory, and there's real issues. But I do definitely find, well, I found it interesting anyways. I had a personal friend that died over the course of the summer, and after kind of getting past that and then returning back to the story, you do view it through different eyes, and it definitely felt like more impactful to me. Like I could relate to it more because I wasn't in the best of spaces, admittedly myself, with a lot going on, and the grief of that sort of thing. So I think I understand what you mean there.
Yeah.
So it makes total sense, and and I think you're probably right there for sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry that that happened, but it is having your own experiences will always make any kind of fiction more intense and more approachable. So being as close to real life as possible, and not randomly decapitating someone. Like, what's the effect of that when you can instead describe an injury or whatever that is a lot more painful and that is a lot more approachable. So that is the gore part, but more specifically, of course, with any kinds of dreads, the fear of the unknown, whatever it might be, loss, as you just mentioned, all of that is more, yeah, approachable. No, that's not the word I want to use.
Relatable.
Yeah, that is it. That is it. Absolutely. It is more relatable and therefore more impactful.
So you've been doing this not just with as Unfussable, also like I say previous company and your own personal playing for it says here 15 years, which is a very very long time, and it's a heck of a lot of dedication. What do you think though, with the various stories that you've created? What do you think is some of the best things that you've ever managed with your time in this field?
So that happened when Gen Con came around, which is the world's largest tabletop role playing games convention, to my knowledge, at least play wise. Maybe there is a bigger one where people get to present their products, but where actual play is happening, I'm pretty sure Gen Con is the biggest. It happens in Indianapolis. During the pandemic, it also happened online. So for the previous company, I just wanted us to have a presence there of some sort. So I started writing Foxtrot. And Foxtrot is also what you saw in the beginning, and the product that I can confidently run currently, because the other projects are not finished to the point where you can play them. But Foxtrot is one shot that again started out as more of an experiment or something that I was comfy running. It got such enormously positive feedback and reviews that I think this is not just my best work with Unfussable Narrative. It might be the best thing I have ever created in my entire life. Um, a lot of people just rave it, and I don't know exactly what distinguishes it so much from other amazing works of fiction or other amazing game masters. I'm certainly not the best game master, um, but yeah, there's attention to detail in it, I suppose, that just really drives people in.
just
And
just sort of had that factor about it that people just saw and just witnessed and experienced and just connected.
yeah, absolutely, they could just take a deep dive into a, well, I can't say too much, it's just you are on a spaceship. You have to deliver cargo to a science facility, and everyone knows each other for 1 or 2 days, and then you enter hyperspace, and when you wake up, you're not where you're supposed to be. That's it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and from there it's awkward times.
A fight against the void of space and your fellow crew members.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. It's usually as a lot of media as well. It's not the threats from outside that are the biggest challenges to the people. It's the people themselves. So
And that's why they always play out differently. I've run this game more than 30 times by now, and I enjoy seeing every single group because they always bring something new to the table. They have new dynamics. They have different ways to trust or mistrust each other, and it's just so much fun for me as well.
and something I wanted to ask you about as well. So because obviously you run all these obviously these tabletop games, and of course that means you've got the chance to meet a lot of different people over the course of your time doing this. I'm sure maybe you've met like circles of friends, maybe people that maybe don't necessarily know each other. But like, what does it mean to you to be able to kind of not just create these stories and not just bring to be able to bring all these different people into this world that you've devised, and sort of the experiences they get out of them.
That is a very interesting question. What does it mean to me? I personally think that in interactive media, especially when it comes to including more than one person at a time. So I'm not talking about single player games, for example, but multiplayer experiences. It is very rare to be able to give people something to dwell on. It's very tough to do that as well. But usually you are just very focused on the medium, on the mechanics, and being able to bring everyone together, and show them a side of this type of fiction that they might not be used to in this capacity, especially. It's one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done. So that
Yeah,
is,
it just brings you satisfaction. Just the joy of it gets those. I can imagine though, just like obviously seeing these people just just diving headfirst in and just letting the world overtake them.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the first 20 games, I think, the first 20 games I've ran of this, um, I've cried every single time at the end with the last line. It's just, yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster. Of course, mostly it goes downhill because that's more fun. Um, but no, there are some beautiful moments in it, and when you feel that pause where everyone is just thinking about what just happened in like a split second, before the uh, reactions start coming in. That's just one of the most powerful silences because you know that you have reached somebody on the other side of the screen, and that's fantastic.
So, what do you want to do next with Unfussable? Obviously, you've delved a lot into sort of sci-fi, horror, and that sort of thing. So, have you got any other laws that you want to dive into? Is there any other fields that you want to explore with this? Surely.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, well, I shouldn't say currently because I haven't been able to work on it for I think almost a year now. But the supposed next thing I was going to do was a short campaign of 6 sessions set in a fantasy world, in fact, but a very, very dark one. Some of the stuff I've written was it made me feel sick as I was writing it. I'm not sure if I should leave that in there, but there will be plenty of warnings beforehand, for sure. Then uh, absolutely will run a Dead Space similar experience. That is probably more going to be a 1 or 2 shot in 1 or 2 sessions. I don't think that's going to take long, although I would also love to eventually run a campaign in that world. The thing is with gore, especially or body horror, it wears off very quickly. So you have to keep it very concise to keep it effective. Otherwise, it's just gore for the sake of gore,
Yeah,
which
it's,
I'm not
it's
a big
the
fan
shock
of.
value obviously is going to
Yeah,
depreciate over the course of
yeah,
time.
absolutely. So a Dead Space thing, and yeah, something that's slumbers deep in my heart, just like it does in real life, is a deep space adventure. So a deep space sci-fi horror. Because what is more deadly than the void of space? It's the deep sea. Because one little hair, what are they called? Crack in the glass can mean that you implode within a split second. Where in space you can at least survive for like 10 to 20 seconds easily. But of course, going into Dune Imperium and then also deciding to sponsor the tournament, I thought I definitely have to explore that more because I also love this world of intrigue. Because to me personally, Dune is not so much a sci-fi adventure or a sci-fi epos, although the original work, of course, is. But the universe is sci-fi is just a tangent, it feels like, and the focus really is on intrigue and politics, um, betrayal, and that is something I would love to incorporate in a short campaign as well. So that's going to be one of the main focuses that I'll probably do before any of the others, and perhaps have ready for the next tournament.
Yeah, I do agree as well. It's one of the things that fascinates me a lot, and I think, from my understanding, it's obviously conveyed in a fair amount in the media as well. It's you obviously have like the conflicts going on, but it's a much more it's a deeper web than that. I think Dune. I think that's one of the really kind of alluring things I think to the lore. That obviously there's people that know it far better than me. I've CG on the channel, and there's many others that have more of a knowledge it than I do, admittedly. But it's as a sort of a more outside looking in. That's kind of like the thing I see out, and it does definitely interest me.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, it's been awesome to chat with you, and I really do appreciate you spending the time to to introduce the world of TTRPGs to the channel as well, and to myself, which is one I'm not the most familiar with. So, have you got anything else that you wish to add?
No, I think that's it. Thank you very much for having me. Foxtrot again will be the product that you can see here and that is being promoted, because that is what I can offer right off the bat as soon as a group fills up. Um, Normally, this would be $25 per player, but for players coming from the Dune Imperium, the Golden Path Internationals, I'm so sorry.
Exactly.
It will be 22 instead. So there's a small discount, and if you can get an entire group on your own, I will give you the opportunity to purchase an entire bundle for 125,
Mhm.
meaning you can bring 6 to 7 players at max. 7 is a little chaotic, but 6 players for sure. You basically get one for free.
Ah, fair enough then. Sounds super good, man. And again, I really, really appreciate you willing to obviously support the tournament. The speed that it has accelerated off the ground has been keeping me busy.
Phenomenal.
It's been staggering, absolutely staggering. It's a huge thanks to everyone listening, who's supporting with that as well. And there's going to be more of them. There's no doubt for that. But that's going to do us here for this one. So huge thanks to Unfussable for joining us. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of days for the live draw for the Golden Path Internationals. Take care, everyone.